A strange thick mist suddenly emerged from the calm sea surface. He quickly spread, surround the small boats at sea in groups. Then there was a clang. The boat seemed to have hit something again. The man was frightened and panicked. Be vigilant in looking around. I didn't expect the deserted sea just now. Unexpectedly, a luxurious sailboat emerged. Strangely enough, no matter how the man calls, no response received. So the man decided to tie the small boat to the sailboat, climb up, explore the truth. Not even realizing the nightmare was about to come, the fishing boat that he had just tied tightly with a rope suddenly disappeared. Upon seeing a man hurry up and enter the cabin, pick up the intercom and call the police. But there's no signal. The depressed little brother can only go back to the deck and find another way. To my surprise, the thick fog just now suddenly disappeared, and there are clearly traces of human life here. But all the equipment on the sailboat is broken. Faced with such an awkward environment, little brother decided to pee. Ease your breath. But who knew he just unbuttoned his pants? The sailboat behind me, just taking advantage of him not paying attention, and slapped him in the dar mouth, causing him to almost fall into the bottomless sea with just one effort. Strangely enough, the sailboat that was just crawling slowly suddenly sped along at this moment. The man was frightened and quickly adjusted his breathing, desperately turning sideways. Raise your feet. After attempting to find support and successfully stepping on the hull, he just rushed through the gap, dripped in from outside the guardrail. The man who just escaped from ascension. Due to excessive nervousness, the bladder is still rapidly filling at this time, but to prevent accidents from happening again, he had to crawl into the cabin and enter the bathroom, prepare to release it properly. But who knew he just unbuttoned his belt? The anus behind me automatically closed at this moment. No matter how he rotates, cannot open it. In a panic, the man hurriedly pulled out a pair of scissors from the nearby dressing table. I didn't expect that. The size of the blade matches the screw on the anus perfectly, but no matter how he wriggles, always unable to rotate it. Just as he was at a loss, a strange sound suddenly came from outside the door. Through the window, I could see a cargo ship speeding towards it. Go down at this speed. It won't take a few minutes. The two ships will collide. So he quickly took off his underwear and stretched out the window, trying to attract the attention of cargo ships. But who knows? The ship showed no signs of turning. In haste, the man suddenly came up with a good idea. So he quickly pulled a rope out of the window, after skillfully tying a bow, throw it to the bottom of the sea, so as long as the rope flows along the water, ripples on the propeller can stop the small boat from moving forward. But I didn't expect that. The rotation speed of the propeller is really too fast. The man hasn't had time to react yet, just strangled by the rope. The strong sense of suffocation made his limbs twitch instantly. Can only subconsciously place your hand around your neck to relieve pressure, then reach out with the other hand to the window. Fumble aimlessly. Fortunately, at this moment, he was lucky enough to find a hook. Then he quickly placed the hook on the rope and tore it. Despite the powerful pull that makes men look terrifying, but to survive, he could only do his best to stretch the rope open. However, the man who had just escaped from ascension had not yet had time to rest. The next bad news follows closely. The cargo ship just now clanged, crashed straight into the sailboat. Then the surging seawater began to continuously pour into the toilet. Upon seeing a man hurry up and pick up the cup, scoop up seawater, desperately leaning out of the window, attempting to delay being submerged, I didn't even notice that the sailboat was turning around at this moment, heading straight towards the distant storm. Secondary, when he reacted, the fierce wind had already blown the sailboat unsteadily. Keep going like this. Soon it will be completely overturned on the seabed. Fortunately, at this moment, the man found a box of blades from the dressing cabinet, so he quickly reached out his hand to the window, attempting to cut the rope on the sail. But who knows that the power of nature is too powerful? Torrential rain mixed with sea water, crazy into a man's mouth, plus the intense shaking. His stomach has already turned upside down. It's impossible for him to exert all his strength. However, even worse, at this moment, something fell from somewhere, and hit the man's hand heavily. Cut a wound with a blade, encountering the stimulation of sea water, make men feel unbearable. But fortunately, due to the extremely bad weather, the rope was suddenly broken by the strong wind. As the sailboat gradually stopped swaying, the man breathed a sigh of relief. After the storm ends, a man who soaked in the water all night, and my limbs have already become numb, he can only try to lift his hands and feet as much as possible, restore bodily perception. After a slight reaction from the body, the man has resumed his mission of escaping the restroom. But who knows? No matter how hard he tries, the anus is still motionless. The complete despair of men being tortured, simply collapsed into the water. Welcome the arrival of death. But I didn't expect that, just then. But he noticed that there seemed to be some signs of looseness in the lock on the anus, so he quickly reached out his hand and started, and try opening the door again. I didn't expect to only bump into the anus this time. Miraculously opened it. Look around, but he couldn't believe it. All of this is real. But at this point, he had already heavily re-entered the ship and soon it would sink. So the man quickly lifted the door panel that had just been damaged by him onto the deck. Then he put some airbags on top of it, tie tightly with a rope, make a simple rafting and so on. After success, the man is calculating the rotational power and leaving. This is a sign. So he waited at sea for a long time. The sailboat showed no sign of silence at all, so he switched to using it again and returned to the ship. The ship is planned to be repaired. Then he entered the cabin, find a battery from inside, then take out the engine and turn it on. He created a simple drifting connection, and then took out homemade tape to stick it on the ship. Seal the leaking gap with glue. When everything is done, the sky also began to gradually darken. But when he woke up again, I found that the sailboat was rapidly moving forward at this moment, so he got up and planned to take a look on the deck. but who knew that the anus in the room was accidentally locked again? But fortunately, after our last experience, the man didn't panic, but turn around and observe the surroundings, finding the best escape plan. After unremitting efforts, the man finally found a dark box behind the toilet, and there happens to be a passage connecting the deck behind this dark grid. After seeing it, the man hurriedly burrowed into the hole, but he never expected it. At the end of the passage was a thick layer of glass. Even worse, the anus behind me suddenly closed, trapped the man in a narrow space, despite the men struggling hard, but the door didn't move at all. Soon, the thin air inside the passage made the man begin to feel unprecedented pain. Just when men are in despair, the sailboat suddenly drifted, slowly stopped, and then the secret door that couldn't be opened just now also opened. Even locked doors can be opened with just a slight twist. The man crawled onto the deck in fear. Only then did I realize that I miraculously returned home. Wait for the man to turn around again. Unexpectedly saw a more eerie